Hello everyone, and welcome to our test of the latest Range Rover Sport, a vehicle that Land Rover calls the fastest, the most agile, and the most responsive Landy ever. To be honest though, the previous Sport didn't set the bar all that high when it came to agility and responsiveness. Sure, it looked the part, and it sold very well, but it was based on the underpinnings of the Discovery, so it didn't boast the dynamic nature that a vehicle with the word Sport in its name really demanded. But this new version is a very different beast. It was created alongside the new full-size Range Rover, but with 75% of its parts specific to the Sport for a unique look and feel. And, like the big Rangy, it has an all-aluminium body, which means that the Sport is 420 kilograms lighter than the old model. Step inside, and the Sport offers all the luxury and elegance you'd expect from a Range Rover. The design is clean, elegant, and sophisticated. In terms of refinement and style, the Sport is right up there with the big Range Rover. Features include impressive 3D audio technology from Meridian, including wireless headphones for rear occupants. There's also a large infotainment screen with clever gadgets such as surround camera system. And there's 10.2-inch screens in the back to provide rear seat entertainment. Like the full-size Rangy, the Sport also has Land Rover's Terrain Response 2 system. Let's be honest, not that many owners will take their Ranges off-road, but should you feel the urge to head off the beaten path, the Sport can go surprisingly far. In addition to terrain response, it has low-range gearing, 546mm of wheel articulation, and 278mm of ground clearance. Its only shortcoming is low-profile rims that will struggle with sharp rocks on difficult trails. Thankfully, however, the Sport has a full-size spare in SA, something it doesn't have in other parts of the world. In order to fit a full-size spare though, the collapsible third row of seats have been removed. So, unlike in other parts of the world, the Sport doesn't have third row seating in SA. Anyway, as mentioned, the majority of buyers will be more interested in how the Sport performs on-road than off. So let's see how it does on tarmac. The model we're testing here is the 5-litre supercharged V8 petrol version that offers 375 kilowatts of power and 625 Nm of torque. It is, to put it bluntly, a wild engine, angry and snarling and perfect for a vehicle such as the Range Rover Sport. It is the engine that the Sport wants and deserves. Thirsty, yes, but also incredibly strong and eager, and with a soundtrack that delights whenever you put your foot down. The way in which this engine moves the Sport along is astonishing. The SUV goes from 0 to 100 km an hour in a ridiculous 5.3 seconds. Dynamically, the Sport is also a very sorted vehicle with a breadth of capability that is deeply impressive. Despite having 546mm of wheel travel, the Range Rover Sport feels incredibly composed and agile through corners with a minimum of body roll. This is largely due to a host of electronic features such as a dynamic active rear locking differential, torque vectoring by braking, and adaptive dynamics that all conspire to beat the laws of physics into submission. The Sport's performance on road can't be faulted. Perhaps it isn't quite as dynamic and ferocious as the Porsche Cayenne Turbo when driven close to the limit, but it has a greater breadth of capability. It also manages to retain the refinement and sense of opulence that you find in the full-size Range Rover. The Sport can be sedate, distinguished, and very well behaved when you want it to. When you're not in the mood for spirited driving, the vehicle wafts along peacefully, its V8 barely audible inside the cabin. The biggest problem with the Sport, in fact, is that it is so good that it makes the full-size Range Rover seem just a little bit pointless. Of course, there will always be those who want to be chauffeured around in the big Rangy, but for those who prefer sitting behind the steering wheel instead of in the back, the Sport is perhaps the ultimate SUV. It is a Range Rover through and through, but with a big dollop of sportiness added to the mix.